Hi, everybody. Sam here. I am so excited that you have joined us today for another micro interview. I am happy to be here with Sheryl Green, and she is the No BS boundary coach. And if y'all been following me for any length of time, you know how important boundaries are in creating a business that loves you back while honoring your energy. Because if you don't have boundaries, chaos abounds. So, Sheryl, would you please introduce yourself and tell everybody watching or listening what I like to call your superhero origin story?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Sheryl Green, and my superhero origin story started in 2021. I was working full time for an animal rescue. I was running my own content writing business. And if you've ever worked in nonprofit, you know that full time isn't 8 hours a day, it's 10 or 12 or 14 hours a day. And then I'd go home and I'd work on my client projects in the evening. And it was like every single day I was just falling further and further behind. To add to that, my parents were getting older. They were requiring more and more of my time and attention. And I was still volunteering for all the roles and all the boards. And of course, always there for any friend that needed me. And it started out with crying. But when I say this around people that know me, they laugh because I quite cry quite a lot. However, during this time, I couldn't stop the tears. It was like the first word that came out of my mouth, tears came with it, and I just cried through everything I said. I was really short with people, not proud to say how many times I just can't effing do this came out of my mouth, but it was a lot. And I stopped sleeping. I started drinking, which is something that I don't do. And it just got worse and worse. And I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. One day I was driving down the road. I was running an errand for the rescue. It was probably about 6 o'clock and headlights started coming on. And as I was driving, I just had this really quick thought of, if I just crossed over the median, this could all be over. Obviously, that scared the crap out of me. I pulled over to the side of the road, hysterical crying, tried to calm myself down. I didn't want to hurt myself, but more importantly, I didn't want to hurt anybody else. And I didn't want to leave my parents and my dog without anybody to take care of them. So I calmed myself down and I vowed sitting on that shoulder that something had to change. And I didn't really know what it was, but I knew something major in my life had to change. I took a month off from the rescue. I told my boss that I had one foot on a mental breakdown and one foot on a banana peel. And I took that month really just to focus on my mental health. Ended up not going back to the rescue. And within a couple of weeks, I had cleared all the non-essentials off my plate. If it wasn't an absolute have to do, it was gone. But 6 months later, I turned around and everything came back and they all brought friends. And I just was completely and utterly overwhelmed one more time. And I was sitting on a plane and pondering this decision that I had to make. And I realized that my problem was that I had no boundaries. I did not have the ability to say no to anyone or anything. And that's why my plate kept filling back up. And that's why I was so overwhelmed. So I learned about burnout the hard way. And now I work with individuals and I work with teams and leaders because I don't want anybody else to ever have that oncoming headlight moment. So that's why I've dedicated my life to boundaries and wrote that like my sixth book is You Had Me at No, How Setting Healthy Boundaries Helps Banish Burnout, Repair Relationships, and Save Your Sanity.
Wow. First of all, I'm glad you're still here. And I have had those moments too. Been on a healing journey for 10 years now. And I was always known as the girl that smiled. Like I said smile. I wrote smile. Everything was smile before smile was cool. It's been like my thing. Back in 1997, when I got one of my first emails, it literally smile 1031 at yahoo.com. Right.
Okay.
I don't think I still have that. So I was a smile girl, and the people in my life would have been traumatized to know the number of times I thought about ending it all. I never acted out, but I knew which, but the over the overpass, the little thing, I knew which one on 360 in Arlington I was going to use. And thankfully, September 25th of 2015, I took suicide off the table as an option for me forever. And yeah. So that said, boundaries literally can change a life, can save a life. It really is important. I know a lot of times we talk about it, and even with the summit, the B word, it's the play on words, right? But it really is healing one boundary at a time, because if you don't have boundaries, you're not going to be able to have the life that you're just not. And so I would really love to hear your thought, tip, or piece of advice that we'll share with everybody. And then we'll chat a little bit about it.
Yeah. So, no matter what industry or role you go into, you've got a pet peeve, right? Everybody has that one pet peeve. For me, it's the phrase, no is a complete sentence. Every time I see this written or somebody puts it on LinkedIn thinking that they're like brilliant, it just makes me die a little bit inside
I'm
because
sorry. I've done that. I'm so sorry.
okay, well, we're going to fix that today.
Okay, good. This is for me, if nobody else.
Yeah. So imagine this. Imagine that you are an employee or you're an entrepreneur and you walk into your boss's office or you get on a client phone call and they say, I need you to do this by this date. And you can't see me, but you put your hands on your hips, puff up, and you go, no. How's that going to go for you? Are you going to have a job the next day or are you going to have a client the next day? No, no. So look, yes, from a grammatical, that's a word, right? Grammar, whatever, standpoint. No is a complete sentence. It does work. And if you're getting hit on by like a creepy guy in a bar, by all means, throw up your no, put out a hand, and you're good to go. But if there are people that you want to, or you have to continue a relationship with, a positive working relationship, no is not going to cut it. While you don't have to give a six page diatribe on why you can't do something, you are going to have to provide a little bit of context. And I like to say that no is not a sign of insubordination. It is an invitation to a conversation. So when you say no, whether it's to a boss or to a client, you're not saying, no, that's it. No, discussion over. No, screw you. Like, we're not saying that. We're saying, hey, you know what? Whatever this request is doesn't actually work for me as is. Maybe my plate's too full. Maybe I've got other priorities that I have to address first. It's an invitation to have that conversation and say, hey, let's find something that works for both of us.
Yeah, that is so good. Yeah. And so I think about it whenever I've used that as saying no is a complete sentence, um, in my thought process is that I get to decide what I do and I don't have to explain myself. However, what you just said in the context you said it in, it totally makes sense. And what's not even outside of the workspace, the boss and the employees, if my husband asked me to do something, I just looked at him and said, no, that's not going to work really well. I've tried it maybe once or twice. It doesn't work. Or if he said that to me, so the explanation of, you know what, I'm not able to do that today. I don't have space for that today. I appreciate you asking me, but that's not something that I'm going to be okay with and choose how far to go down that path. And so it's just a really great reminder that we are in relationships with people, and to honor those relationships, to help them learn how to treat us and how to not continue going down this path. A little bit of the explanation makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Explanation, even just a little bit of context around it. Even just what a heartfelt, I'm so sorry I can't do that. I laugh about this. It's not somebody I have a continuing relationship with, but I was at a restaurant and I asked the waitress to make a substitution and she went, no. Cool. No, look, maybe it's against their policy. Maybe their chefs are just learning and they cannot handle, like they can't comprehend. But you know what? Even if she just said, no, I'm so sorry, we're not allowed to do that. Done. Done. And now I've left without a good story. But no, just
No, no. Yeah. So
cool.
one of my favorite current boundary stories, my daughter is 33 and she did not grow up around boundaries because I've just learned this in the last few years. And my dad, her grandfather, they have a really sweet relationship and that he does a lot for her. She does some stuff for him. He has dogs and actually he has one dog now because one passed away recently. But my daughter does house sitting for and pet sitting for him when he and his wife go out of town and stuff. And he just asks and she always accommodates. A few months ago, my husband and I were keeping her sons, our grandkids, so she could have some alone time. And my dad asked her if she could take care of the dogs. And she very politely said, and she calls him grandfather. She's like, grandfather, I love you. Thank you so much for all you do to help me and the boys. Mom and Monty are keeping the boys this weekend. And so I can have some alone time and just not going to be able to do that. If I could have done that,
You're like, what? That was an option?
if I if I could have done that, and then my son's 28, and at the end of the year last year, we were texting about some stuff, and he texted, he's, yeah, I broke a boundary to myself. I'm upset with myself, but it's okay. It's not anything that big. It was just like a social faux pas. And I said, can we circle back? You have a boundary at 27. He's 28 now. And I'm like, wow, wow. And so it truly it's a different ball of wax when you can do that. And one of the reasons I really am convinced that most women don't set boundaries is because they don't know who they are and they don't know what boundaries to set. And so once you start to learn who you are, what matters to you, and then you can actually hold to those boundaries, that's when you truly can create a life that you love. Because if you're stuck continuing to do all the things that don't serve you, you're not going to love that life, right? You're just not. Yeah, I feel like we could continue doing this all day long, Sheryl. But we do try and keep these we call them micro to keep them short and let the women get a tip, a piece of advice. But I'll make sure that your links are all around this video where we put it on social media, and it'll be in my community, Safe Art Connections, and make sure that the women are able to get connected to you. Do you have a final thought or anything you'd like to close with before we wrap up today?
If you check out on my website, there is a how to say no cheat sheet because that is really the hardest part is the actual communicating the boundary. So you can download that for free and have a go-to resource.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you so much, Sheryl. I hope
Thank
you have a great day. I'll see you later.